Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Sanctuary. I'm your host, Professor C, and I'll be taking us through another A&P study session. Specifically today, I'll be talking about homeostatic control mechanisms. So without any further business, let's get right to it. Okay, so when you look at a homeostatic control mechanism, it always has three major parts. It has some minor parts to it as well, but let's look at these three major components. The first of which is a receptor. It's usually drawn by me as a little, the edge of a cell, the cell membrane there, and you'd see coming up from it a little Y-shaped structure, like a satellite dish. And this satellite dish, if we can think of it, receiving information from some external or internal source. And not only is it going to receive that information, it's kind of like a receiver, but we call it a receptor. It will also send it somewhere. And it's going to send it to the next major component, right? This information it sends is called sensory information. And a way you can remember that is sensory information is input. It's from the receptor toward the second part, which I can spoil now, the integrator. The integrator is also referred to as a control center. The control center. It will receive that information from the receptor, right? The receptor receives it and sends it to the integrator. The integrator receives it and thinks about it. Now, this could be a reflexive thought, like the withdrawal reflex, pulling your hand off of a hot stove, or it could be a more, deep thought type of reflex where you're going to contemplate what you should do, even if it is a moment of thinking or several moments of thinking. Now, not only will the integrator figure out what kind of information it's received from the receptor, it will determine how the body or the cells should respond. And it'll also issue commands out to the third component to do something about this problem, if it's a problem. So this third part's called the effector. It's the thing that will have an effect. And in these lectures, an effector will either be a muscle or a gland. So when we talk about effectors in here, you'll hear me talk about muscles or glands. Those will do the effectation. They will have the response, some sort of appropriate response, hopefully. Now, there are mechanisms, it says here, feedback mechanisms could make that response amplified or diminished, depending on what signals and what system you're talking about. So another thing I would put here is, this is the output. And it could also be called a motor response. So if sensory is input, motor is output. Let's try to draw out a homeostatic control mechanism so we can see it better in our mind, both the three major components and some of the minor components. So let's try that real quick. Let's start with the three major components, if you can remember what they were. The first one was a receptor. So I've drawn a receptor here on a cell membrane. We see the receptor. Let's label it. And remember, what the receptor is doing is picking up signals from somewhere. It's not just picking them up, though. It's got to send them off, right? And it sends it where? To an integrator, also known as a control center. And in this discussions we're going to do in here, it's either going to be the brain or the spinal cord. And we usually say the spinal cord is for more, say, reflexive type of actions, withdrawal reflex and so forth. The brain may be more contemplative, although it is certainly has the ability to be reflexive also. Okay, the integrator is going to interpret what it has seen, experienced from the receptor. It's going to think about it, it may send out a signal to the third component. And the third component will be the effector, right? And in this class, it's either going to be a muscle or a gland. And so we've got our three major components: receptor, integrator, effector. What we could do now is connect to them with, some sort of nervous or communicative structure. So we could kind of do something like this. Let's draw a wire to the integrator. Let's make it really simple. Now, we already know what this type of information is called because we saw it on the last slide. The receptor picks up information and turns it into a signal sent to the integrator, and we call this sensory information. But because it's going toward the integrator, we can use the term afferent. Sometimes pronounced afferent, but I'm going to say afferent because I'm going to stress that A so we hear it clearly. So the type of information is carried on a sensory structure or an afferent structure toward the integrator. And the integrator does what the integrator does. It thinks about it, decides what to do, decides which cells and which system should do what, and then it will send a signal out toward the effector. Now, we also know what this is called. These are called motor signals that go from the integrator to the effector. But we can also give it another term, like the top. We can call this efferent. Some pronounce it efferent, but again, it's good for me when I learned it to learn afferent toward and efferent away, and stressing the A and the E helped me. So to sum it up real quick, a homeostatic control mechanism starts with the receptor, who picks up information and sends that information via sensory pathways or afferent pathways to an integrator or control center, like the brain or spinal cord. Here some sort of decision-making process is undergone and a decision is made, and that signal is sent out via motor pathways or efferent pathways to some sort of effector in your body, like a muscle or a gland, that will have the effect, that will produce the effect that the integrator has sent. Okay, I said that there was a possibility that the signal that is sent out can be exaggerated or diminished depending on what type of system we're talking about. The most common one is negative feedback. And just notice, here's kind of in the middle of the slides is usually the normal position. Let's say that the person gets cold, right? Well, there's some sort of feedback that maybe generates heat by making you shiver. And your body temperature increases and feeds back on the system, right? The system shuts off, you stop shivering. What about the opposite way? You get too hot. Your body temperature increases. Well, now you get a different type of feedback that says, stop getting hot, let's sweat a little bit, and let's cool off. And so our body temperature decreases back to this normal. This is this concept of homeostasis, right? Where if you get too hot, there's a mechanism to cool us off. If you get too cool, there's a mechanism to warm us up. So we often talk about negative feedback loops being the most common one. This is very, very common. That either reduces some stimulus or turns it off completely, negates it, turns it off completely. And again, this prevents, sudden changes from happening. We know sudden changes can cause problems with homeostasis. You got to keep it balanced. You don't want to imbalance the system. There is an opposite way, though, called positive feedback, something that would exaggerate or amplify the original stimulus. And it says it right there. It is rare in human bodies and cells. There are some instances, and there are ones that are classically on every type of standardized test that you'll ever see. So I like the little picture up there because it keeps it simple. You see cattle running, which causes panic to increase. More cattle run, more panic, more running. I guess you could put people there too because it's very, very similar. This is a positive feedback loop. It doesn't stop the panic, it exaggerates the panic. Now, these are harder to think of because they're rarer, But these are three very, very common ones that you see on standardized tests. Gastrin secretion from the stomach, platelet plug formation during blood clotting, and the one that's on almost every single example of positive feedback is labor contractions. So think about it. You have a uterine contraction as you're about to give birth. This is regulated by a hormone known as oxytocin, which is dumped out of the brain. Now, when you have a contraction that's caused by oxytocin, that actually causes more oxytocin to come out. So you have more stronger contractions, and which dumps more oxytocin and more contractions and more oxytocin and more contractions. And you get the point here. You get this positive feedback loop until the baby is born, and then thereafter for a while, actually, just to make sure. Positive feedback, very rare, an exaggeration, an amplification of an original stimulus. What happens if you have an imbalance? What happens if you have the two children on the teeter-totter, but one of them is not letting the other one come back? There is an imbalance now. What is this called? Well, it's not death, but it may lead there. It certainly is an increased risk of becoming ill. We know that homeostatic imbalances are much of the reason we see body changes due to getting older. So we have to maintain homeostasis in order to keep ourselves healthy, communicating with the rest of the body. As usual, thanks for watching the video. If you're liking what you're getting, check out more videos in the series so I can feel like I want to put more out. Bye-bye.